morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you join us from worldwide. I'm Sterling. It's great to have you back on the channel. This show is being recorded on Saturday, August 2nd, 2025, and then posted to all media channels and platforms on Sunday, August 3rd, 2025. As always, these shows are provided for entertainment purposes only. All the information I share with you comes real time through my guides, angels, extended spiritual counsel, ETs, famous people from history, so for entertainment purposes only. Also, just remember to like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. All those things really help the channel. Moving towards 100,000 subscribers, really working to get the channel certified via YouTube. So everybody's support in that area helps. And remember, when you subscribe, it's free. If you're new to the channel, we always grab questions for these shows from our YouTube channel under the post section, the post tab. Requests go out on Mondays. I think we had, pardon me, 1,000 questions again this week. And my wife, Linda, then goes through them, reduces them down to some sort of a helpful group that kind of encompasses a lot of what the questions are all about. I think on today's show, we have 73 questions to go through here in real time. So happy to do so. Quick reminder, if you place questions in the comments sections of shows or under hot off the press announcements on the post board or any other location, except for under the heading that says, please post your questions here, on that post on our YouTube channel. All those other questions never get seen. In fact, some people will email the office. Those questions never get seen for these shows. So just a quick reminder, always place your questions under the request for questions on the post section, the post tab on the YouTube channel, Sterling Psychic Medium. Last but not least, if you'd like to join our Platinum membership, I do live streams on Fridays, answer a plethora of questions for people, everybody. And you also have access to hundreds of videos in the archive, as well as a lot of instructional videos. To join the Platinum group, all you have to do, there's a join button on the front page of the YouTube channel, Sterling Psychic Medium, as well as the website, sterlingpsychicmedium.com. So without any further delay, let's get rolling ahead here on today's show. So question 73 in the countdown. Will H.R. 1319, the Modern Worker Empowerment Act, which supports independent contractors by clearly defining the line between employee and independent contractor under the Fair Labor Standards Act and the National Labor Relations Act, actually pass? I do see it's going to pass and then be modified somewhere around the year 2028 to add more workers' rights. So it looks like the way it's being proposed, so that the pendulum swings one direction or the other. Looks like it's going to pass. And then there's some restoring of workers' rights and some modifications of that as we get out to 2028. 72 in the countdown. What do you see as the future implications of 45's July 24th, 2025 executive order criminalizing and institutionalizing homeless people, including those individuals with addictions and mental illness? This is going to place more individuals into incarceration. It will. And so here again, I don't see big changes in kind of what's going on here with this executive order until we get out to 2028. I mean, a lot of change is going to happen this year with the administration, but it takes a while. There's always a lag effect for all these different, executive orders and things to kind of get reconciled. So there'll be more people incarcerated. It's going to start to ease up in 2026 around people getting incarcerated for this. But it's, 2025 is going to be rather difficult here for that. 71, will the Democratic governors redistrict congressional seats to fight back against the GOP redistricting efforts? I do see this taking place in some areas like California, believe it or not. Yes. Not nationwide, but I do see some Democratic governors definitely aggressively looking at doing a redistricting here to try to reformat and kind of, bring it back to fairness, if you will. Okay, 70 in the countdown. Is the 3I Atlas or Third Interstellar Atlas Comet actually an ET spacecraft? If so, are they coming to help? No, this is completely a natural space element. In fact, a lot of extraterrestrial ships use cloaking, so they're not coming in a way that's that obvious, although many millions of sightings around the world. But this particular 3I or third interstellar atlas comet is actually a very natural, completely natural asteroid or object moving through space. And I think the other question people ask, is it going to hit the Earth? No, not going to hit the Earth. Okay, 69 the countdown. Hello, Sterling and team. Emil Bovey has recently been appointed to a lifetime judgeship. Given everything he has done during 45's administration, will Bovey's judgeship be reversed at any time in the near future? I wouldn't say it's the near future, but I would say as we get out past 2028, looks like the judgeship will be reversed. 68 in the countdown. What do you see as the future of physical media such as video games, since a great deal of this technology is moving towards digital cloud platforms? Some people are rejecting cloud-based media due to potentially losing access to their purchases. Well, remote cloud digital infrastructure will be the norm as we move out just a few years here for everything that's distributed. In fact, a large amount of like physical media will not be available within about 10 years. So everything will be moving towards cloud infrastructure. And yes, there'll be security guardrails put around that. I know some people are concerned about losing access to content like video games based on a company's influence in that area to be able to shut down access or not. But everything will substantially be moved to cloud digital infrastructure, and really a loss of a lot of physical media within about a 10-year period here, almost none. 67. What really happened with the alleged UFO abductee Travis Walton and the group of lumberjacks in 1975, which spawned the story Fire in the Sky? Was it extraterrestrials or some other sort of military operation? This was actually an extraterrestrial group that did in fact abduct Travis. But what I see when I look at this is that a lot of the stories have been exaggerated, potentially because of maybe a PTSD. I understand it's a very dramatic event, an abduction. But the abduction was really a straightforward process. There was some testing being done, but the stories kind of gained legs as time has gone on. And it's unfortunate, but some of the stories have kind of spiraled out and kind of it created much greater instances of kind of what happened during that time period. 66. Hello, Sterling. I'm curious what role intuition plays when working with your team. How do you know what information you get from your intuition, what comes from your guides? I've been working for years to develop deeper trust in my intuition, but it has been difficult. How are we to trust our intuition, physical abilities as being real? Well, so when I do it, it's not really based on intuition. Let's say for me personally, I see full-scale apparitions, clairvoyance, clairaudience, cognizance of knowing this. So it's a very complete picture. Now, if you're asking, let's say, somebody that's learning how to develop the skills or develop the clairs, and remember, intuition kind of comes from two different areas. If you're not keyed in with the clairs, a lot of intuition could come from fear. You're actually picking something else from a fear response. So whether you know it's coming from your clairs, it's a true intuition, it's always trust through validation. So kind of, yeah, you have to, I guess it takes time and experience to learn, is this coming from a fear or is this actually something that's coming through the clairs? And you can always validate the information, especially if it's something you didn't know, and you can validate, go, well, that was definitely coming through the clairs. So kind of two principal areas there. 65. I know you've often indicated no one leaves this planet unless it's their time. I've been wondering, does that apply to animals as well? Do animals have a life path plan as well, and one that might include a sudden or violent death, like by traffic accident? Yes, every entity in the universe, including animals, every spiritual entity has a life path plan, and all these life path plans are interconnected. So lessons learned by the least of us or one of us is learned by everybody. We're all connected. So every life experience teaches a propagation of lessons. It's like dropping a stone out into a lake. Let's say that's the life event. And then you have wakes that move out from the lake out to the shoreline. We're all connected. So yes, every spiritual entity, every soul entity has a life path blueprint. 64. Hello, Sterling. I live in Lithuania, a Baltic state neighboring Russian, is it Kaliningrad? And our country constantly receives direct threats from this country. What do you see for the Baltic states? Is there a real danger of armed conflict between the Baltic states and Russian Federation in the course of the next few years? I do see an armed conflict of some degree here, much the same way it has in prior history. But I also see this region, and we're talking about Lithuania here, like the government really ramping up security forces like right now. So that's going to mitigate kind of the overall effect. But there is a conflict coming up over the next couple of years here, but then it gets mitigated by a lot of planning that looks like it's starting right now. Okay. 63. In regards to past lives, it seems like I hear a large number of stories about people that remember a past life and have a common thread to something like being a healer, high priest, or priestess, or a famous historical figure or something dramatic, which makes the story seem less believable. Is it true that a soul that's experienced a dramatic prior human life may potentially have a higher energy that makes it more likely to recall a past life than just a regular average person, or are these stories purely fantasy? So there's no direct connection or relationship between, let's say, having a dramatic prior life and then what happens like in this lifetime. It's all, you actually design that based on free will. But by and large, a lot of people, for some reason, if they're not connecting to their past lives, imagination flows into there, and they imagine they're a priestess or a king or a queen or something of that nature. So I think the question here is, they say, remembering past lives, the healer. You know, there are a lot of teacher healers on the planet right now that certainly were leaders in prior lives that help people from a spiritual standpoint. So that's true, but in terms of, let's say, direct connections to high priestess or what they're saying, famous historical figures, not always the case. So it's not a direct connection between, you know, major trauma in a prior lifetime, and then that means, you know, you're somehow aligned. It's all based on free will and the life path plan you lay out each time you come down. 62. Recently, there have been a large number of people crossing over, and not just celebrities. Is there a reason why there are times where it seems there are clusters of passings? According to my team, there isn't a real increase per se. There's increase in the perception or awareness of a lot of people crossing. Now, just like, you know, there are birth rates in history where there are surges of birth rates, if you can extrapolate that all the way out to someone's full lifetime, there are going to be surges in some cases, you know, based on natural life cycles, more people leaving, more people reaching the ages of, you know, 70, 80, 90. That's true. But in terms of this time period right now, we have an increased awareness due to social media, other things going on. So from my team's perspective, it's not actually increased level, it's just increased perception and awareness right now. 61. When do you see the BBC having a resurgence in popularity? Right now, it's going through major financial problems and a reduction in programming. And there is a debate going on regarding license fees, which are going to rise or up in the year 2027. You know, the BBC is going to face continuing challenges and threats due to other streaming platforms, but I do see that they're going to get it together, so to speak, here over the next couple of years, kind of re-strategize how they approach, get involved in more streaming platforms. So it's kind of like a restructuring, a reorganizing of the business. So this is all part of kind of a natural evolution, but I see maybe they may have lagged behind here a little bit, and they're going to kind of catch up and get aligned with more efficient, cost-effective distribution platforms, be more of a competitive force even around streaming platforms is what I'm seeing here. So it's going to turn around. 60. ABC 7 in Los Angeles recently reported a sighting of what appeared to be a cryptic creature described as having a large head and narrow neck, captured on a home security camera in Compton, California. Do you have any idea what it was or why it might have been there? I get this is all purely a hoax. So somebody created this imagery, whatever this was. This is actually not based in reality, or like these were small grays or extraterrestrials or something. It looks like this is all based on a hoax. Okay. 59, St. Paul, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz had to call in the National Guard recently to help with a cyber attack on the city of St. Paul. It exceeded what the city was capable of handling. Was this by a foreign entity? And if so, who? This was a sophisticated attack driven by an offshore entity. It appears that Russia had a hand in this and some other countries in the Middle East. So there's some sort of a cooperative effort going on here. But this was definitely an offshore driven cyber attack at a very large scale. But it looks like the good news is that what was learned here by the city of St. Paul, uh, the information they learned in terms of kind of figuring out where it came from, what the threat was all about, is going to prepare other cities. They'll be better prepared. So good information kind of coming out of this. 58, I recently lost my youngest son, and before he passed away, I had this feeling something would happen to him and I would not see him again. Was this a psychic hit? Yes. So all of our unique angels and guides are always there to support us. They're your team traveling with you. And when there's important information coming up that you're supposed to acknowledge, and I'm going to send you love and light here for the passing of your youngest son. He's fine. Everybody on the other side starts a brand new life. It's actually like a graduation. These are your angels and guides preparing you for important information that's coming up. So yes, it is. They call it a psychic hit. It's your angels and guides working with you. 57. Hello, Sterling. There is a YouTube channel called Really Haunted, focused on an individual, Lee, and his family living in England. The house he lives in appears to have a large number of paranormal experiences. The owner, Lee, has been physically attacked by beings that have scratched him and also seems to have an entity who will take over his body at times. Many objects many objects move unattended in the house. Can you shed some light on this unusual situation? And this is a YouTube channel called Really Haunted with individual Lee and his family. What I get is there's a lot of showmanship going on here, a lot of entertainment value. There may have been one or two kinds of paranormal experiences in this house, but boy, did this kind of unravel and spiral out into a lot of showmanship here. So it looks like these are not real experiences, but it's something being created artificially for entertainment value. Okay? 56. Hello, Sterling. It seems that more and more U.S. couples, not sure about other countries, are experiencing fertility issues and have to resort to extremely expensive medical assistance in order to conceive. Does your team have any insight into what may be the cause of this ever-increasing fertility problem and whether it'll be resolved in the near future? I get not a doctor, but I get this is all related to a number of factors right now in society. So they're like ingredients in the food supply chain. I get there's increased levels of anxiety and stress in everyday living that has biological effects. So it's kind of a collective thing going on here. But it looks like within a few years, this is all going to subside in a way that people become more relaxed, food supplies get cleaned up. So it looks like there's a couple of, what I'll call emotional factors and then external food factors, or biological factors. Again, not a doctor here, but looks like that's creating some of the difficulty going on here. 55, is anyone investigating the 45's regime to see if they are siphoning off money as they slash overall federal budgets? And if so, where is it going? I see there's a number of background investigations going on around the federal government looking at where money is being siphoned off. And it's going to programs that are trying to keep 45 regime in power. Also, there's some what I call secret programs going on. Some of them are defense related, military related. I see a lot of that. Just by and large, every administration, regardless of political influence, if you will, does siphoning off of funds and creates some sort of a budget for programs that are what they call off the books. So I do see some federal investigation going on here, and actually this information regarding where the money's going is actually going to come out in public here towards the end of the year. So combination of factors here, but it's going to be revealed. But it's important to note every administration does some siphoning and for funds that they want to kind of keep their projects off the books. 54, once 45 flees the country as previously predicted, will anyone be held accountable for the damage he and his party have caused the country? Well, that it's always an interesting question. People are always asking, will people be held accountable? Many people will flee and get away with it. That's the truth. There will be some left behind that will face retribution, court cases. That's true. So it's not, I think it's important to make a footnote here, comment that, we all want to keep our energy pushing towards the fact that truth comes out everywhere and that it's realized that, the real results of elections and things are known and those kinds of things. But I would be careful or caution everybody not place too much energy behind, will that person be held accountable? Will that person be held accountable? It's putting energy in the wrong direction. We certainly want justice, you want truth. But anyway, it's not going to be a massive, law enforcement exercise and all the courts clogged up with a lot of people getting their just desserts, so to speak. It's so be careful how you kind of move through as we move into the future here. We want the truth to come out, but don't put too much energy behind. Is everybody going to be held accountable? 53, will Social Security SSI be adjusted in the future to be more in line with inflation? Yes, but in this case, not until like the year 2029. 52, who will ICE go after next? J.D. Vance made a statement against Indian workers. Will they target minority technology workers in the Silicon Valley area of California? I do see this is all part of some planning going on by ICE right now. So I would tell everybody to be, cautious. It does appear that there's some sort of now a new effort. It looks like this will be the case. Remember, it's going to be rather chaotic involving ICE efforts here in 2025 and then start to ease up as we move into 2026. 51. If our lives will be extended up to 40 years due to future breakthroughs in genetic engineering, will we have to work 40 more years of our lives? Will we be able to still retire in our 60s? Again, you'll still be able to retire in your 60s, and work's going to be much more efficient. So it's like people get more done during their working years, probably due to hybrid systems and ways people work remotely. But you'll actually be able to retire still in your 60s, and then the extension of life by about 40 years. People will enjoy more time, but it's almost like contributing to society in the remaining years. People won't just hang out by the pool for 40 years. It's actually finding other ways to contribute back to social efforts, social causes, animal rescue, a lot of things, helping underprivileged kids, people that need assistance. So it's interesting, the shift in society is going to be more towards having more time to help. 50. When we pass over and after we complete our extensive life review, do we have an opportunity to meet with the one source, the one force? Well, you'll be standing in everything that is the one source, the one force. It's not meeting an individual. You'll be standing in that complete environment. Again, it's like a drop of water dropping in the ocean. Now you're part of the entire ocean. So you are actually in the energy and the presence of the one source, the one force, as soon as you cross. Now you can feel the one source, the one force right now where you are in the world, but people don't seem to connect with it as much as when you cross over. 49. By the way, my team just remind me, you'll realize when you cross over that the one source, the one force was around everything and in everything when you were here on Earth. You just didn't realize it. 49. Will masked ICE agents who are kidnapping innocent people eventually be held criminally responsible for their crimes? Well, it's here again. This is not going to take place due to the current administration. There'll be groups that will be held accountable, but with the current administration, it's not going to be the case. A lot of these people will be held accountable. 48. Will the European Union as an institution fall apart? If yes, or if not, where is the EU headed in the next decade? I get the EU is going to stand long term, and more countries are actually going to join the EU. So it's actually going to kind of flourish and become stronger. It's going to be a very strong entity moving forward. 47. Are the men in black real? What is their purpose? Are they hybrids? Some are hybrids and some are Homo sapiens sapiens. So the men in black typically are ones that safeguard extraterrestrials while they're here on Earth, almost like chaperones. So some of them can be rather menacing because they're trying to warn people away, keep people away from extraterrestrial groups or activities. But yes, they're real. Some are hybrid and some are Homo sapiens sapien. 46. How will AI impact healthcare careers? Many people in my circle use AI for talk therapy. Will there be a point where AI or artificial intelligence becomes more than a tool and replaces a large chunk of health professionals? So AI will significantly increase the number of tools available to all healthcare professionals, everybody worldwide. It's going to change the way, let's say, sessions are conducted. There'll be access to more information, more technology, more databases. Won't replace humans completely, but it'll enhance, let's say, the rapidness of diagnosis, treatment plans. So humans will be very responsible and very important part of the whole process, but they'll leverage a lot of artificial intelligence technology. Remember, AI is going to be ubiquitous very shortly, as common as electricity and water flowing in your home. AI is part of the Earth's path. It's actually part of the future. 45. Can you please speak to what happens when you have to make the most dreaded decision to say farewell to a beloved animal companion? Is there something your guides can offer regarding that situation where we, as human guardians of such precious beings, must take action to help the animal release from their physical body? We talk about this all the time. All animals are from the angelic realm. They're not angels, they're from the angelic realm. What does that mean? They actually come down with unconditional love, and every animal is part of your life path. They're actually here to teach you lessons of the heart. Remember, life does not end with the so-called death or passing on earth. Life is a continuum. There's no birth, there's actually no death. Animals are actually here to kind of teach you a life lesson about the continuum of life, that life goes on. That's why when they're in the home, they can stare up and they see grandma and grandpa that crossed over in the corner of the room spiritually. But it's the life lesson for the human, which is all about releasing that soul, that spirit back to the other side, back to family members. And actually, a lot of times they come back. So the life lessons are really more about you expanding your understanding and thought about what life is all about here. The life is a continuum. And people that get caught, I understand, in that kind of circular event that, the releasing, that event, that day, you had to release the soul of your beloved animal. You actually release them back to the other side for a brand new life. And a lot of times they do come back. So it's really all about the continuum of life. Okay. 44. We effectively understand that 45's name is within the Epstein files and records. Did he also function as a type of business partner with Jeffrey Epstein? Well, this will all be disclosed in the extensive files that are going to be released. I can tell you for entertainment purposes only, the answer is yes. 43. Sterling, did you say that the moon was put in place by extraterrestrials? Yes, many years ago, I read on this topic, some 5, 6 years ago. And yes, millions of years ago, the moon was placed there by several extraterrestrial groups as a way station. There's actually there's a base inside the moon, but this is actually a way station for many extraterrestrial groups. 42 in the countdown. Edgar Casey predicted the second coming of Jesus in the late 1900s. What is your prediction? So, no truth to this assertion. There are many ascended masters coming down to earth all the time. not just one individual. So the focus on one individual, according to my team, the millions I communicate with on the other side, is that there are many ascended masters coming down. So not just a focus on the one, and not even that one, believe it or not. So many more coming. So I guess what I'm saying is that what I see here as the future moving forward is not in complete alignment with that prophecy. 41. Will hand recounts take place sometime in 2025 relative to the votes in the 2024 presidential election in Pennsylvania or any other swing states? Yes, by the time we work through the better part of 2025 here, almost half a dozen states will be involved in hand counts of audits. Lots of information coming forward. Watch the news. You're going to see a lot of new factual information coming forward relative to the extensive electronic election interference that took place in 2024. Actually, in other elections as well. 40. You've indicated in the past that extraterrestrials will reveal themselves the next couple of years. How will that change how human beings interact with each other and how countries will interact with each other? This will produce a deeper understanding of the way the universe works and how Homo sapiens sapiens animals are a small cog in the wheel of the way everything moves, the mechanism of the universe. So it's going to really increase the level of understanding. And I'm sorry to say that in a lot of respects, it's almost like humans, Homo sapiens sapiens. If you think about it in terms of educational perspective, humans are almost like in kindergarten compared to the amount of knowledge and resources and what's happened over millions of years in the universe. So it's actually going to open up the minds of many people to understand there's a lot more to the universe than people understand. But it's all coming. It'll be made very clear very shortly. 39. For your UK followers, can you please look at the Reform UK political party and tell us if they are trying to replicate what's happening in US politics, such as using specific right-leaning media channels to help undermine the UK government through misrepresentation of the facts? Yes, this is all a complete replication of what's happening in the US. And we've talked about this before. This is part of a lot of very, I'll call it far right wing kind of politics spreading around the world in many countries. This is actually will be ongoing for many years here. And the UK is not immune, or the Reform UK political party is all part of the kind of this overall kind of global mechanism that's going on right now. 38. When it comes to romantic relationships, do those who break up only to reunite later plan these types of breakups as part of their soul journey, or is it part of their own free will as it pertains to the scale and scope of their relationship? Well, there are no accidents. So, and every individual, let's say you get in a relationship with, that's a soulmate. We have many soulmates as we go through life. They all teach you a lesson of the heart. But as you go through life, there are no accidents. So if you meet somebody, they are a soulmate, you start learning lessons with them, you break up. It's all part of the way you laid it out in terms of how you get through those lessons of the heart. So, free will, we talk about all the time, never takes you off your life path. It controls the three S's, right? Speed, scope, and scale. 37 in the countdown. Wildfires are prevalent all over the world. I understand it has a great deal to do with climate change. However, will there be technology to send out an alert of fires before they get enormous? And will there be technology to successfully put out these massive fires, preventing the large amount of destruction and damage to homes and wildlife? Yes, here again, using artificial intelligence systems within 5 years. There'll be very good predictive analytics as to how you can target certain areas of the world that are predestined. There are fires coming. And then there's actually going to be very good fire retardant systems they'll be massively successful in tamping down fires almost immediately. So there's two technologies coming over the next few years here. And what's interesting with AI technology is going to be very good at predictive and analytics and really getting on top of regions that are almost ready. Let's say they're a tinderbox, almost getting ready to go. So yeah, this is all coming. 36. Do people carry an illness or condition from one lifetime to another? And do people choose mental illness when mapping their next lifetime? So, all human characteristics that we experience down here are part of the life path blueprint, and they don't necessarily carry from one lifetime to the other. Remember, you select based on your free will the lessons you want to learn and what you want to convey to people around you. So, you don't necessarily carry them automatically, lifetime to lifetime, but you do plan out each lifetime. And yes, may be hard to understand, but sometimes some forms of illness, all forms of illness, are part of a life path. And usually they not only teach you lessons, but your family or doctors around you. It's part of how you're interacting with the environment. 35, do you see some types of remote diagnostic devices where a person can relay basic medical information, such as an EKG, blood pressure, etc., to a doctor without having in-person visits and will it be covered by Medicare, other insurance policies? Yes, actually, a lot of this remote technology already exists. It's coming down the cost curve. And I do see that within 5 years here, for some reason, like massive support around like Medicare types of insurance. They're actually going to really lean into it because it's going to lower a lot of costs for some reason. So, again, not a doctor, but there's some sorts of maintaining physical facilities or something here. It's actually going to be really widely adopted, and the technology is going to come down the cost curve. And a lot of it will be handled like through mobile devices, like through mobile phones and accessories that work with mobile phones or mobile devices. Yeah, it's all coming. 34, I'd like to know when will there be a cure for the herpes simplex virus, HSV1 and HSV2? So, CRISPR genetic engineering technology has already made major advancements in both of these areas. What I get from my team is they have already like experimented with mice and figured out how to isolate these. And then by 2035, it looks like there's going to be, let's say, vaccines available that will really help in this area. So we're on kind of a 10-year curve. A lot of genetic engineering technology, if you watch this channel, is on like a 10-year horizon right now. Remember, everything starts happening exponentially. As every advance takes place around genetic engineering, it helps with the next breakthrough. But specifically to HSV1, HSV2, big vaccines coming by about 2035. 33, what trait do extraterrestrials find most redeeming or charming about Homo sapiens sapiens? Well, it's really the fact that they're vested in making sure that Homo sapiens sapiens succeed, because that helps the Earth school succeed. So it's more about this unique place. Earth is very, very unique. So it's more about their concern over Earth, the Earth school, and helping Homo sapiens sapiens kind of achieve their best outcome. So it's not necessarily find those characteristics charming about Homo sapiens sapiens, but it's almost like the need to kind of stay engaged, to keep the Earth school flourishing and make sure it doesn't become a problem for the rest of the universe. Remember, nuclear explosion, nuclear devices actually cause ripples in the universe. So I wouldn't say they find it charming, but they want to be protective. 32, when psychic predictions don't necessarily come to pass, why is that? Is it difficult to accurately pinpoint future events relative to timelines? What does that play here? Well, human free will affects a lot of timelines, but it doesn't take things off the timeline. So remember, free will controls the three S's: speed, scope, and scale. If you think about the Akashic records, it's like a big slinky, right? It expands or contracts. It's still all connected. But a lot of it has to do with the free will factor. So many times, if an event is supposed to happen and you don't see it happening, many times it's been my experience over a lot of years here, a lot of decades, it does eventually happen. It may not happen in the exact time frame you thought it would, but it actually does happen. More often than not, we do predictions of things coming up the next week. So there are things that occur that can easily, well, I say easily, the universe is trying to get the messaging out there to people in a very fast time frame, get the information so people are prepared. Other things may be at a little longer time horizon because of a lot of other world factors going on. So hopefully that helps. But the three S's affect kind of those elements. 31, will cancer detecting dogs at the doctor's office ever become a reality? Will will it pass the sniff test? And then no other screenings will be necessary. Yes, it's already being implemented. Animals are already very sensitive to smelling things like cancer and other diseases. Actually, this particular element will eventually be integrated into artificial intelligence systems. So, the very things that allow animals to sniff out certain diseases will actually then be used and integrated to other types of technology. But yes, within just a few years here, we're going to start seeing animals brought into medical environments on a more regular basis to kind of analyze diseases. Yes. 30. You often speak of our specific life choices. How do negative behaviors like criminal acts factor into someone's life plan? Are negative challenges designing our life path? Yes, it is all part of the yin and yang of the universe. This is actually how it works. If we all came down here to experience nothing but freedom and joy and love and nothing ever happened, unfortunately, the way the universe is designed, you don't grow from those experiences. To use kind of another example, failure creates success. So as we fail, we learn kind of how to do things better. Kind of an acronym in many industries, fail early, fail often, get to the success. 29, will all the internet traffic on YouTube, with all of the internet traffic on YouTube talking about ET contact, what exactly would this look like in our day-to-day lives? Would all different species be living amongst us and filling the skies with ships? So not necessarily. Hybrids are going to be introduced first initially. A lot of hybrids are already active in society. People just don't know it. And once hybrids are introduced, then other extraterrestrial species will be introduced, but they won't be working with you in your schools necessarily, or at your local supermarket. They're actually still going to be very well connected to leaders and government and scientists helping with the world. So you'll be aware that they're here. You'll actually see them in news broadcasts and other types of governmental events. But hybrids will be very common. You'll actually be around a lot of hybrids. 28. Governor Ron DeSantis has appointed land developers to the Florida Wildlife Commission in Florida. These developers are essentially his big money donors to his campaigns. The FWC, or Florida Wildlife Commission, are now proposing a trophy hunt for Florida black bears. The motivation is to reduce wildlife so that conservation lands that are supposed to be protected can be sold off, cleared, and built upon. Environmental and animal advocacy groups across the state are protesting this potential hunt and are planning to speak at the next FWC meeting in August of 2025. What do you see happening with this effort? I see it's going to get stopped, but it's going to get stopped because there's like flawed logic here. Like killing adult bears doesn't help with conservation because the babies or the cubs or whatnot need their parents for a period of like 2 years. So it's like a whole big flawed logic thing going on here. And I understand why they're trying to do it, to build on these lands. But it feels like I see it coming to a screeching stop. Looks like a lot of like good logic is going to come to play here. But again, it's like flawed logic is you're not conserving bears by killing the parents. You're actually hurting the whole ecosystem. 27 in the countdown. Will there be any changes in the future regarding the laws around the 40-hour work week? I work at a doctor's office Monday through Friday. It often feels like life is passing me by. The current system seems outdated. Many of my coworkers and I struggle with maintaining a healthy work-life balance. So no real changes in the 40-hour work week for many years to come, but there will be changes in technology integration, like working more hybrid. So it's even like, let's say you have to be in a doctor's office, let's say, to personally interact with somebody or greet them. There's going to be technology coming in like robotics that might mimic who you are, or holographic technology that makes you look like you're there, but you're in a hybrid situation. So there'll be ways of kind of getting a better work-life balance, more hybridized ways, but the 40-hour work week is going to be around for quite a while. 26, do birth angels or guardian angels ever cause difficulties? No, they always support the life lessons we're going through, but they don't intentionally place like difficult situations on our path. We do that on our own with our own life path journey. By the way, angels and guides learn by working with us. Now, that may sound counterintuitive, but they stand around you a lot. They work with you a great deal. And as you go through certain life situations, it actually enriches them. There are certain things you learn that actually get passed along to them. So many times, the life lessons you learn also enrich them. 25. Hello, Sterling. I grew up in the Catholic faith, and I'm now experiencing ideas that are new to me based on listening to your channel and your answers from your psychic gifts. I always prayed using the introduction, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Upon completion of prayer, I would thank Jesus. Does God, the one source, one force, feel offended when we pray using our religious upbringing, like Jesus as the intermediary? No, I mean, everything rolls up to the one source, the one force. So, humanity goes through growing spurts and their understanding, but the one source, the one force is everywhere, right? It's omnipotent, omnipresent. It's like the ocean. We're just drops in the ocean. So, no, there's nothing no one gets offended here. But I will tell you that, as part of like humanity's growth, I think humanity gets locked in a microcosm of, limitations of thought, of how they think things have to be, that it's one ascended master, or it's just this person. It's so much larger than that. So it's really just kind of opening up yourself to what is the universe, what is the one source, the one force. But no one's ever offended. That whole existence on the other side in the universe exists in a space of love. So there's never any judgment, never offended. 24. How do people from ancient Egypt, such as pharaohs, feel about archaeologists coming into their tombs, removing artifacts, including their mummies? All entities on the other side have no real connection to what's happening here on Earth. Let me repeat that. They have no human connection with the interactions on Earth. So they've moved on, right? You start a brand new life. They're supportive of people learning here on Earth. That comes from a love space. But the fact that one might think that individuals or souls that move on still have a connection with what's going here on Earth, not necessarily. They want our highest and best good, but they do not get materially connected with what's happening down here on Earth. And that includes, in this case, pharaohs from Egypt. 23. I recently read the book Imminent by Luis Elizondo, who worked for the Pentagon program responsible for investigation of UFOs. Some examples he uses in the book show that there may be a reason to fear extraterrestrials. Is there an ET group who do not have friendly intentions? So, like any group or species in the universe, there's always some outliers, right? I will tell you that in some cases, the reptilian population is like 1% of the overall extraterrestrial population. And there's to say, not all reptilians are harmful or don't have benevolent intentions. A small group, so a small portion of the 1%. May not be aligned with humanity. That's true. But by and large, it's fractionally a very small percentage. Not all reptilians are dangerous. Important point. 22. Is there any paranormal activity taking place in what is known as the Bennington Triangle in Vermont? This area roughly encompasses the towns of Bennington, Woodford, and Glastonbury. Gained its name from the unusual number of unexplained vanishings in a relatively short period of time. I don't get that this area is particularly paranormal. I get this might be some folklore going around there, like maybe some people vanished in unexplained ways. But I'm not getting this as particular paranormal area. There are highly paranormal areas on Earth, the Bermuda Triangle, very large magnetic energy centers, but not this particular area that's being asked about here. 21. Former governor of North Carolina, Roy Cooper, has declared his candidacy for the Senate seat in his home state, formerly held by Tom Tillis. What are the prospects of his victory? Yes, it appears he will win the election. That's what they're telling me. It appears he will win. 20. Hello, Sterling and team. How do you see workers' rights moving into the future? It seems to me that lots of campaigns have, I'm sorry, lots of companies have anti-union practices. Will we see a resurgence of unions? Yes, a big resurgence of unions as we get into 2029. So a lot of the chaos that's going on here around companies and workers' rights, big resurgence as we get into 2029. 19 in the countdown. Hello, Sterling. Sometimes when I'm listening to a moving message on a social media channel or on TV or in my church, I get a flood of emotions. Tears come to my eyes because it's so emotional. Are my guides sending me these messages? In some cases, yes, but in many cases, whoever asked this question, you are clearly an empath. There are 8 fundamental clairs. Claire empath is one of them. You have a very strong empath gift. So look at ways to kind of modulate that. You're a very clear, open empath. That's a large part of what's going on there. 18. Why is it so difficult and time consuming to diagnose patients with Alzheimer's or dementia? Do you see in the near future testing techniques will be available to diagnose patients rapidly as opposed to waiting for years to get a formal diagnosis? Yes, right now, in fact, artificial intelligence is making great strides in analyzing trillions of pieces of data around medical diagnosis to be able to get to these diagnoses much faster. So this is a tool coming up within a few short years here. They'll be able to diagnose patients much faster. Looking at certain artifacts, there'll be, not just medical tests, but almost like imagery, looking at a person, looking at muscle interaction. There's some things going on here using imaging technology. They'll integrate into artificial intelligence. They'll produce the diagnosis much faster. Just within a few short years here, I'm getting like around 2 to 3 years. 17. When I was a child, my father dug up part of our backyard to build a deck. He found a buried horse skeleton. After that, we began to have paranormal activity in our house, and I spent much of my childhood seeing spirits, other phenomenon. I later learned that our home was built in an area of Ventura, California, where there was a Chumash Indian village. I have always wondered if there was a connection to the skeleton in my experiences. Is it true that building on a graveyard can cause hauntings? In some cases, yes, right? So a lot of times, benevolent soul spirits will come back to an area they really liked. In your case, that's true. Actually, this was somehow a spiritual ground for Chumash Indians, and they actually like that area. So, hauntings, I have to be careful when you use this term because sometimes it's benevolent presence. They like being around. Now, if they scare you, all spirits are kind of required to respect your request. So you can ask your guides and angels to step forward, ask them to help lead them away. Don't scare you anymore. So they'll respect that request. But it was called a haunting. But yes, if you're around areas that were highly the indigenous, if you will, to a lot of, say, Indian tribes or whatnot, yes, you're going to see, and civilizations, you're going to see that happen. I know the area that we live in, there was a lot of activity, a lot of spiritual activity going on in the land. And we see, for example, Native Americans all of the time, right? Apparitions. So it's very common. But in your case of Ventura, California, yes. 16. Which important government agencies will be reopened or restaffed by the new government in 2029? And whoever this was gives an example of FEMA, NASA, FAA, FDA, NIH, USAID, CIA, Pentagon, cancer research centers, etc. I get all of the above except for USAID or USAID. And I get that organization is going to be absorbed into some other group and renamed. So kind of have some of the same kind of functions that USAID had, but can get renamed. All the other agencies looks like they're going to keep their name and be refunded and they'll go through rehiring. 15. Hi, Sterling and team. My 11-year-old grandson recently told me that he remembers when and where he was born. Is this possible? Yes, very common for children to completely remember their birth experience. Remember, you're very open when you come into this world. A lot of the clairs are fully functioning, but you actually do remember. It makes a big impact on you. 14, is there any hope of the price of groceries coming back down to be affordable in the near future? Well, if you consider the near future, early 2026, yes. But so 2025, still going to be under a lot of duress. Pricing is going to be under a lot of duress. 13, my brother Carl passed away 49 years ago in a motor vehicle accident. He passed away before his son was born. My nephew to this day feels that his spirit is stuck at the scene of the accident. Can you provide him with some solace that my brother's soul is at peace and not stuck where his body was found? So, first of all, individuals are never stuck at their point of crossing. You always cross immediately with your birth angels. Individuals may come back to a scene to, let's say, experience or look it over, but they're never stuck. Everybody moves on immediately into the heaven dimension. So they're not stuck. And I do see that this is your brother Carl, still comes around the family quite a lot, certainly around celebration times. I'm not even sure if you even had a celebration here recently, but there's something about coming around with celebration times. He sees what's going on. So no, not stuck at the scene of an accident. That's almost like walking through a doorway. You don't stand in the doorway forever. You walk into the next room. 12. Hi, Sterling. Can you please tell me if the ex-attorney general Bill Barr knows the truth about Jeffrey Epstein's death? Yes, absolutely. 11. Are plants sentient? 100%, especially flowers and trees, all sorts of plants, but flowers and trees especially. 10. Many years ago, when I was going through a difficult time, one morning I was outside looking toward a ridge. On the top of the ridge, I noticed three solid white animals. They were walking in a row with the largest one first, then the medium-sized one, and then what looked like a baby following in the rear. White deer are extremely rare around, and a whole family would be nearly impossible to see. No one else around the area had ever seen solid white animals, much less a family. After 50 years, I still see them in my mind and often wonder where they came from. Can you help? So I get these were actually white deer, and I guess white deer is a loss of pigment. I don't know. I'm not an animal expert, but yes, they were white deer. And it's interesting. Your family members on the other side put those in front of you. Remember, our family angels and guides can influence animals, birds, all sorts of animals, butterflies, insects. They can influence them to kind of come around us to get our attention. So I get there's some family influence on their side, but you physically saw a white deer, even though I think it's rare. Looks like it was, complete loss of pigment, and it does occur. So I'm getting kind of a whole natural plus supernatural reason this all took place. 9. Will we be able to learn new energy healing modalities from extraterrestrials? Yes, this is all part of the master plan for Earth. As we're going through the next transition cycle here, we're in a 3-decade reset, year 2020 to 2050, but extraterrestrials coming through in the next couple of years here for everybody. A lot of these healing modalities are already understood, and they will be shared with humanity. 8. The hypogeum in Malta is a prehistoric subterranean structure in Malta that houses the remains of approximately 7,000 individuals. Who were these people and what happened to them? I get this was created for the protection of the populations. I know they house, I guess you're saying 7,000 individuals here. In terms of what happened to the population, it looks like natural devastation, like disease, famine, something of that nature. So a lot of natural occurrences here. But this was created like for protection and even getting spiritual, might be some sort of practices going on there. So looks all very natural to me. And I actually have seen a number of these around the world, these types of prehistoric subterranean structures. So various civilizations, humanity felt that these were necessary for protection from the elements or to have some sort of an environment where they could have more spiritual practices. 7. Do angels laugh and cry? They laugh, but they never really cry out of despair. Despair comes from loss of understanding or belief or fear. They don't really cry, no, but they do laugh. A lot of the angels and guides, even extraterrestrials, have a good sense of humor. Six, will choice ever be codified into law at the federal level? Will women's rights be returned and protected better in the near future once we all separate from the 45 administration? Yes, I get new laws for women's rights will be codified in the year 2029. Five, everyone seems to believe we are placed on earth to engage in lessons. If this is indeed the case, are we part of the one source, one force? Wouldn't we already know everything before we come to this life and again when we return to spirit? So we are all part of the one source, the one force. You hear me talk about all the time, drops of water in the ocean. But soul evolution is one of the reasons you come back. Soul enrichment, the growing of your soul, right? So part of your soul DNA. So just by being part of, let's say, the ocean doesn't mean you are the entire ocean. So this is all part of development, growth, spiritual soul development. That's why we keep coming back. Almost when you go back to the other side, you're reminded of what everything's all about. You're reminded of what staying in complete love is all about. But it doesn't mean your soul doesn't have a need to grow and to elevate. Four, the data centers supporting artificial intelligence and computer cloud storage are major polluters and draining electrical systems nationwide. Will alternative approaches to data centers be developed that don't impact the environment and our overall health? It is coming in future years, but remember, we talk about this all the time. We're going to move into an area where there'll be a lot of supercomputer technology, quantum computer technology implemented. That's going to have a lot of large power consumption initially, but then as we grow through the next number of years, the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see power consumption come way down as technology improves. So, and footprints for data centers will start coming down. So there's a natural evolution occurring here. Yes, in the near term, data centers are going to be a bit of a problem. We'll always have types of data centers. They'll be hosting clouds, right? Cloud applications, and doing a lot of things around supporting AI for entire societies, applications for AI technology. So evolution here, but remember, power consumption is going to come down eventually for supercomputers, quantum computing, and footprints will come down. So it'll come into scale, okay? Number three, number two, and number one. I always take notes before I start these shows. I'll read those to you. Number three, do your extraterrestrial friends have anything they want to share? Just as a show of our presence, we mitigated all of the tsunami warnings and events around the world in the prior week created by the 8.8 earthquake in the Russia region. Never doubt that we are there. Two, what do you see coming up next week? Massive water events and storms coming to the Gulf areas of the U.S. as well as the lower east coast of the U.S. So everybody kind of be on watch. It looks like that heat dome has something to do with some other weather patterns now starting in that area. Pardons are coming for Maxwell and Diddy from the 45 administration. Earthquakes in Australia and the U.S. Virgin Islands generating some tsunami warnings. New major glacier breaks in Antarctica generating increased concerns over new ocean levels rising faster than expected. New threats to New York City from another lone wolf attack at an office building. So everybody kind of be on alert in that area of the East Coast. New breakthroughs in science research around obesity in children and adults. Some new breakthrough coming through here. New commercial aircraft avoidance warning systems. Warning system problems showing new vulnerabilities in commercial airline travel. So collision avoidance systems, I guess it's CAS referred to. Something coming up here regarding some sort of a problem area. I'm going to call it an issue or an area of vulnerability, but it's then going to be corrected. Looks like a lot of it might be the FAA. Somebody gets involved in it very, very quickly to kind of shore up that problem. And number one in the countdown, do you have anything your guys want to share? Show the world who you are, and they will respect it, and so will you. On that note, that concludes the show being recorded today, Saturday, August 2nd, 2025. Distributed to all major media platforms on Sunday, August 3rd, 2025. As always, if you want to join our Platinum YouTube group, the join button is on the front page of our YouTube channel, Sterling Psychic Medium, as well as our website, homepage, sterlingpsychicmedium.com. Gives you access to live streams I do on Fridays and hundreds of videos on the archive. And on that note, I'm going to send out a lot of goodwill and tremendous love to you and your families. Take care. I will see you all again very soon.